We're back to Total Education Celebrity Show on the Total Education Network, TotalTutor.net for more information. And my guest who brings on the most interesting rap artists in the world, we've not talked in a couple months, so I first want to welcome to the program Sean XLG. Sean, how are you, man?
Doing good, Neil. Doing good, man. It's been a minute, but we're back on track, and we got a special guest today. My man Dana Dane with Fame will be joining us today.
All right, well, fantastic, Dana. Thanks for calling, man.
Thanks for having me on the show. Greatly appreciate it. Much love to talk to my man Sean XLG once again on the Full Circle. So, yes, let's do it.
All right, fantastic, Sean. Kind of tell us a little bit of background about Dana, and then we'll get to some questions.
Oh, okay. Well, Dana Dane, of course, one of the Brooklyn-bred MCs coming out of New York City. Started out as a member of the Kangol Crew. Used to be a partner with Slick Rick, with Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick fame. So they started out as the Kangol Crew, and, of course, everybody eventually went their separate ways and scored huge success with the debut album, Dana Dane with Fame, which actually peaked at number 46 on the Billboard album chart and was certified gold. Dana Dane is the second solo MC to actually have a gold LP. So, and then, of course, he followed that up with Cinderfella Dana Dane, which peaked at number 11 on the charts. And this was back in 1987. So Dana Dane with Fame is joining us today as our special guest, and let's bring him on board.
Okay, Dana, let me ask a question. First of all, how you broke into the business. Tell me a little bit of how that happened.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Sean XLG. But just to clarify, on the album charts, I was number 2. The album went number 2. Couldn't get that number 1 spot because Michael Jackson's Bad was on there. So, what can I say about that? But with that said, yeah, I broke into the music business after hearing y'all remember that classic cassette tape with Lottie Dottie and the show on that went around as a mixtape back in the day before it went on sale. And after hearing that and then them putting out the show as a single and all the success they got from that song, I was like, I could do that. I know Rick. We was in a group together. I can rap. So, a friend of mine had been asking me. His name was Sam Jacobs Jr. He's known as MC Holiday, also a.k.a. the Gucci Man, who's since passed. Since then, he had leukemia. He was the producer on my first single, Nightmares. He'd been asking me, to come in and do a song, but I was like, nah, I'm not into that. I'm in college and things. But when I heard Rick's song with Dougie Fresh, I thought, I bet. I gave him a call. We went and started working in the lab, and we sent out the single Nightmares, the cassette, to like various record labels from the top to the bottom, and Profile Records, Gary Peeney. He heard the song out of the box of cassettes and said, yo, let's talk to this guy, and they brought me in. And it's funny that when Nightmares came out in 1985, and it was a hit, a big success, early 1996, January, February, March, April, May, I'm getting letters from record labels still saying, nope, we'll pass. This is not the type of song we're looking for. It's not a hit. It's not, I'm still getting, just letters of decline, but the song is already on the charts and on its way up. So that was kind of funny to me.
And Sean, kind of give us the picture as the historian of this when he did finally break in. Give us specifics from what your history of knowing about Dana.
Yeah, I would say around that time when Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick came out, I think the art of storytelling within hip-hop became real popular at that time. And of course, we're talking about early 1985 into 1986 and into 87. So storytelling wasn't original at that point because, of course, you had artists like Grandmaster Caz, who was telling stories about Yvette, and some of the other artists that were out, Jimmy Spicer and Cool Out. Those brothers were telling stories.
They did a little bit of it too, as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So by '85, when the show came out, Lottie Dottie, that really hit hard, and of course, that single went gold. So storytelling became a whole nother avenue for artists to get into. And, of course, Dana Dane was one of the top artists in the history of hip-hop to ever get into storytelling. So when Nightmares came out, that was like a hit all over, from the radio to the streets, on the blocks. Everybody was listening to Nightmares when Dana Dane hit with that one. So that actually, Dana Dane and Slick Rick became like the top two storytellers, basically, in hip-hop. And so that started a whole trend where all other MCs were jumping on the bandwagon. But the best, in my opinion, to ever done it was Dana Dane and Slick Rick. You know, those are my top two MCs in terms of storytelling. And, of course, Eminem gets into it, and Biggie was a excellent storyteller as well. But as far as understanding the music, the songwriting aspects of it, from intro to body to conclusion, I would say Slick Rick and definitely my man Dana Dane were the top two to ever do it.
So, Dana, I guess, how did you become such a good writer? What would you think gave you that ability? Do you think it's just basically wanting to tell from the heart what your life was about?
You know what? And I always tell people this because, you know, I get this battle between, you know, those who call themselves hip-hop historians and, you know, old school and classic. And they're like, yeah, you know, Dana Dane bit off Slick Rick bit off Dana Dane. And I always set the story straight. When I met Rick, he was already telling story raps. You know, he had this joint about poker, and it was like, you got to know when to hold them, fold them type of story about playing poker, which was incredible. And from there, and that was late 1979 going to 80, that I was like, yo, and I was just really mimicking other rappers, like the hip, the hop, the hip, no real structure to my rap at all, you know. And when I met him, I like, that's what I need to be doing right there, because that's hot. So I went home literally after that day and started writing one line at a time, just trying to figure out how to bring my story to life. And you know, that's I basically found out I had a talent for it. And you know, I can't say that it was something that I guess it is something that I learned, but it felt like it was second nature to me. And then when I graduated out of high school and when I went to college, I went there for accounting. I went to college for accounting, which was a bad mistake because when I got there, my favorite class was creative writing. And I really started getting into that and just writing stories, not rhymes, just stories from beginning to end. And they taught me about anecdotes and how you outline things, and you write down your intro and your body and conclusion, and how you bring that all together. And from there, that's when I think I really started to excel as a writer and telling story rhymes. So that, I guess that's basically where I really picked up and honed my skills at, is in college, even though I never got a degree.
Well, what it sounds like to me, Dana, is that you, again, were a person that wanted to educate yourself. You saw, again, writing as a tool to talk about your life. And, Sean, what would you say he's best known for? What would you say Dana Dane's best known for our audience that might have not, been into rap at that time? What would you say Dana's best known for?
Oh, well, I would definitely have to say the storytelling part with the Dana Dane with fame, Cinderfella probably is one of his biggest hits, Cinderfella, Dana Dane. And one of the stories that Dana told me before a couple of years ago was how he went on tour with Houdini and actually wrote the majority of his album while he was on tour with Houdini. And of course, he and I both kind of learned a lot of our writing skills from Jalil of Houdini, who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest songwriters in hip-hop history.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I second that emotion.
Yeah. So Jalil was, he was an incredible writer. I told Jalil myself that I think he's the greatest of all time in terms of songwriting and hip hop. So, it's one of those things that, of course, Dana Dane, was looking at Houdini the same way I was, and thousands of other MCs out there who were really influenced by songs like Friends and Freaks Come Out at Night, Haunted House of Rock. So writing for me actually developed from learning from Houdini. And I think, Dana being on tour with Houdini at that time period, because Houdini and Run DMC and the Fat Boys were basically the three biggest rap acts in hip-hop during the mid-'80s, and of course the Beastie Boys were big as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Dana Dane being on tour, with Houdini, was a big thing.
So Dana, how did you kind of get used to the fame? Like when you were on top in your game, and you had lots of fans. How did you handle it, especially from someone who went to college, who saw specifically, was looking, I guess, towards in your career being an accountant? You never thought, that you'd be on this large of a stage. How did you handle the fame?
I just seen it as being, and I guess I contributed to my mom's and just being raised in Fort Greene Projects with, and then going to music and art and having the opportunity to see different cultures once I got to music and art. And I guess when I got to the height of my fame from my records, it seemed like second nature to me because I was famous in high school from being in the Kangol Crew. And every day, that was our thing, to dress up, me, Slick Rick, Lance Brown, Kulowski, Omega the Heartbreaker, the 5 members of the Kangol Crew. And we were, we had... We had memberships for the Kangol Crew, and everybody would come to the lunchroom to see us rap, and we were the talk of the school, and other people knew us from that school, and when it came to breaking into the music business and getting the fame, I just always remember to treat people how you would want to be treated, no matter who you were or where you were or what status you had, and that really went a long way for me to stay grounded. And, not let the fame really overtake who I was personally. So I contributed that to, a few things. And,
Sean, you can kind of tell us the history of where Dana reached his peak and then went the wayside like everyone else. They have their top notch being on the top and then finally moving to a new type of scene as we see in rap, how it changes throughout. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, hip hop changes very quickly and drastically. I think Dana Dane from 1985 to probably 1989, 1990, Dana Dane was one of the hottest MCs out there making music. And then, of course, around 1990, we had the rise of the West Coast coming into play, where you had Ice Cube, and NWA, Dr. Dre. So you had a rise. There was a paradigm shift around 1990 with the West Coast coming alive and really making a dent in the music industry, especially on the street level, where you had what was called gangster rap, giving birth to that style of hip-hop. And that became what pretty much the most dominant force in hip-hop music at that time, from around 90 all the way up and through the late 90s. So you kind of had an imbalance in terms of hip-hop, what kids were listening to, and and the whole entire focus became on the West Coast, where you saw Snoop Dogg and a lot of the Dog Pound and a lot of those artists that came out, Warren G and those guys came out and really made a lot of noise. And at the same time when that happened, of course, you had artists like Dana Dane, Kumo D, and some of the East Coast artists that were hot at that time. Some of their popularity began to wane at that period.
Okay, well, fantastic. Dana, it was great having you on the show. Look forward to having you back in a couple months. But where can our listeners find out more information on you and learn more about you?
I'm building my multimedia production company right now. We've switched over to music to film production. I've written a book called Numbers as well, a fiction. And now I've turned my writing skills over not just to raps, but to, screenplays and TV series and things of that sort. So right now I'm building all of those foundations to really break into the media industry over the next couple of years. I produce launched a couple of independent projects, so looking forward to doing a feature film in the near future. But they can catch me up on DefBeatEnt.com. That's my website for my multimedia production company. That's DefBeatEnt.com. Or they can hit me up at DanaDane.com, DanaDane.com. That's my personal website. You know, my mom told me if you want people to remember, you sing it to them, DanaDane.com.
Well,
but and all the Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube is Dana Dane Media. Y'all can find me, Dana Dane Media.
Well,
all those,
I'm going to tweet you out. I'm going to tweet you out today, Dana. After all my marathon of interviews before I go on vacation, I went and loaded myself up the next 2 weeks, but everything did work out. Glad to have you on the show, and appreciate you calling, man.
Thank you very much, man. I greatly appreciate you all, and blessing and love. You ever need me, you know where to get me at, and look forward to joining you all again, all right?
All right, Sean, where can we find information on you, by the way, man?
You can look me up at SeanXLG.com. I'm also having my book, Hip Hop Parade, celebrating 30 years of rap music, available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. It's also available on Books A Million, all the online bookstores. And I'm also looking forward to trying to get some music projects and a couple other books I'm working on with Cool Rock coming out this year. We're going to talk about the 50 greatest hip-hop acts of all time. So that book is going to be up and coming, and so it's going to cause a little bit of controversy, but you know, it is what it is.
All right, guys. Thanks for calling the program, and Sean, I look forward to our next guest on the show, and I think we'll be able to kind of get things together for me on that, and look forward to talking to you soon. And thanks for calling, Dana.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care.
All right,
you're listening to Total Education Celebrity Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.